I was trying to like find like a way to start with an extra person.
Then I was all like, "Fuck you."
You can't. I feel like that's really improper and rude. Like, I mean, sure, someone who would be watching the video would be like, "Oh, there's a third person here," but the people listening, they wouldn't have known until you really just blew up the spot.
Give me a sweet intro. Then.
What if I prepared an introduction? What if I wrote stuff down? What if I really wanted to make it nice, and you're just like, "No, we're not gonna do that." I feel like you don't deserve it anymore.
But I do want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
So many what ifs.
Yeah, no one will ever know now because you ruined it. And I mean, I could go back and edit it, but I'm not going to. You're just gonna it's gonna be like, "Who's that person? Why is there a? I thought this was a 2-person affair."
Hello.
It's a threesome now.
See, now you say threesome, and I tried to like write jokes or think of something clever to like have the people on camera, and I think I realized that I'm just a bad writer because I can only think about sex things. And then I went to like interracial sex things, and just it's
Whoa. Let's not pull that card this early in the game.
what?
That's for hour 2 of the podcast.
That's for after hours.
That's actually a Patreon exclusive. You get a private Snapchat.
OnlyFans exclusive.
Man, welcome to the Disciple Podcast. We made it to episode 4, and I don't think we were able to do more than 3 without bringing someone else in. I don't know if that says something about Cap and my relationship, or if just this was just serendipitous that you happened to be in my house today. So I'm like, hey, can you
Maybe
put on clothes and like turn a microphone on
I
and like
really
join
wanted
us?
to be here.
I don't believe you for a second. I feel like you're actively pained right now being here.
The truth is that Joey came to me last week and he said, "Hey, I'm getting a little bored of our podcast. I need to find a way to spice things up. I think we should see other people. I think we should have an open podcast."
This is like a thruples therapy.
r/dead podcasts.
Can you? Can you? I don't know if you can do any therapy to like help us fix our relationship, or if you're just like here to distract us. But thank you for spending time with us.
I haven't even established if I'm getting paid for this yet or not.
Oh no, this is. I don't know. I know that you're kind of like relatively new in working in esports.
Yeah.
But pay is like a thing that you just don't really.
Yeah, this is what's called exposure.
I'm a TI caster now. I get paid for appearances now, right?
Yeah, so was Lumi was a TI caster.
What happened to that?
Pyrian was
Pyrian's a bad example.
Pyrian was a TI panelist.
Yeah, and now he's written a book. And he gets probably paid to show up and sign that book.
Nigma was a TI panelist.
Really?
There was a analyst called Nigma. At
Oh.
TI2, he was a
Nebula.
panelist. Nebula? Nigma?
I think
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking of like
Nigma-
Nigma No Name.
yeah, that's a
like
YouTuber.
like a YouTuber.
Sorry.
And I'm like, what? I mean,
yeah. Nebula.
That's the one.
I mean, I guess if you want to talk about YouTubers who found their way to bumble onto a TI panel, joining us today is Tsunami.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you crash our setup and join us in
People
my house.
Have long demanded that I do a podcast.
Is that true? Is that because people are like, oh, your voice sounds
Yeah.
like podcastable?
That's exactly it.
Why?
You want something to fall asleep to,
Right.
sort of deal.
Yeah.
You know, why don't you just like invest in maybe an ASMR stream if you don't want to do a podcast?
If I
You just scratch your beard
if I
against the
ever
microphone.
made a Patreon, my goal was to do ASMR furry porn and just corner the entire Patreon market.
Damn.
That
Yeah.
has to exist.
This guy's good.
It has to.
That has to already
and
exist.
if not, then I just gave away my best business plan.
It's not Dota stuff. It's not production stuff. It's
no,
like,
no.
hey guys, the furry market is underserved.
hmm
Well, I guess I can't really argue with that. I don't even know what I was gonna say. I'm gonna cut that. Normally I joke about cutting.
going back and cutting anything. I'm gonna cut that.
Normally I talk about and just making a joke to not cut anything, but I think that my brain literally just stopped.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? Why are we here?
Why am I here?
I think because of the exposure. We already went there. This is how
I'm giving you exposure. Right
Are you
now.
doing that?
Yeah, this is a symbiotic
Tsunami,
exposure.
I don't
need to
even-
respect this podcast a little bit more. We get at least 100 downloads across all platforms.
Okay.
All right.
I think it's yeah.
I listened to the first 2.
Was that because
So
I
it's-
begged you to, or on your own free will?
No, you actually were very shocked that I did, and even more so shocked when I gave critiques.
I feel like you give notes
So
on
you are
everything.
here as a therapist. You are here to help our podcast.
Yeah.
All right. What's the feedback? Hit
For
me with the harsh critics.
for episode 1 and 2, it was more like an interview show. I think
Okay.
you need to ask more questions to him, even though he's a painfully uninteresting person. He occasionally
That's-
has some insight.
I feel like I didn't bring you here to attack me, but
So-
okay. I feel like that's hostile coming from a therapist.
It has to be a two-way street of conversation.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't attending to Joey's needs
Yeah.
as much, and that's why he hasn't been as receptive. to
Everyone,
me.
yeah. It's all about
So
communication.
Joey, how was your day?
It was fine. It's really smoky in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
It's bothering my lungs a little bit. I know that, like, it's
So we've got the non-Dota conversation settled down, but he also has Dota thoughts that he may want to share with you.
That's I think that's where you're wrong. I'm trying to suppress those as much as possible. The more that I can talk about the fire outside, my computer's not working, you being here is like it really helps save me from the fact that I couldn't tell you everyone who won the qualifiers.
Yeah, I think our LA traffic conversation came after Joey told me that he hadn't played Dota in 6 months.
I got a lot of good feedback on it, though. Apparently, people were very interested, and apparently, someone does like listening to that. People actually left us a review on iTunes,
Cool.
and I was scared because I pitched at the end of the last episode that I would give you one to read.
Oh, that's
And I thought in my head, no one's gonna do this, and I'm like, so then what do? Do we either just pretend like it didn't happen?
Okay.
But now we have,
Just astroturf it and make your own review.
Wow. See, now that like introduced illegitimacy to
Everyone
this. Like,
thought that.
like
Everyone-
no one thought
Everyone
that.
thought that
I
crossed
didn't.
everyone.
Yeah. See, no one thought that. It's real, and now everyone's
This
gonna
is-
be like, "Oh, you made it up."
This is why I'm here. I'm here to give the outsider's perspective.
To
You
introduce
are in an
chaos.
echo chamber right now.
I'm gonna regret this. I don't know if I already regret it, but I wrote it down for you. Our first iTunes review, Cap. Someone appreciated us enough to do this.
Oh yeah, this was definitely written by you.
No, it wasn't. You can't feed into the narrative.
Best Dota podcast. Where have you been all my life? From Dookie Anime, 5 stars.
I would have not named myself Dookie.
Dude,
That's
The
exactly
anime.
why that's the name.
That's a real
So
person.
you have plausible.
That's a
deniability
real
anime.
Thank you, Dookie Anime. I would love to see what
I-
kind of Reddit you subscribe to.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. That is a very interesting cross section of interests.
Yeah.
Dookie and anime.
I want to up the game though. If anyone wants to leave us another review, I will physically send them something in the mail.
Oh.
I don't know what it is. I don't have something yet, but like that's a big carrot on a stick. I'll package it up myself. I'll ship it hopefully to the United States, but anywhere. Just keep the positive comments coming. I think that we already have more reviews and likes than like a Shiva and Kyle's podcast. So that's like one that we're stepping over.
Right in the anecdotes.
Now
Another podcast that went several episodes and then died.
then we're gonna come after position 6 next, and then I'll
Oh, dude,
call
we're
out.
not beating position 6. I'll be honest. I've been listening to that podcast.
I can be more European if that helps.
It might.
He has a
Can you do an
stand-up
accent?
background.
He has a stand-up background.
He has a
I
stand-up
can't.
background.
I can't do accents, and I took a improv class. I think that's a requirement for living in LA. But
And I know he's able to write jokes, so.
fuck. I need.
Yo, Dan,
to,
if you're out there and you're listening to the show right now, if you want to move to LA and start a podcast,
do not. I've cornered the capitalist market. Do not take this away from me. That being said, I did listen to a lot of position 6 for both of you. I'm like, hey, how do I do a podcast? I should probably listen to Dan. So thank you.
That's
and you should listen
why
to him.
your show was so interview-centric for the first 2 episodes.
I mean, or I just come from a background of listening to talk radio, and I don't know how to talk about anything else. So I'm just like, jokes, Dota. But luckily, hopefully, I don't have to just fill the air with nonsense because you're here, and we can quasi interview you and ask you about nonsense.
Yeah, I had just casted a great deal of the qualifiers for the first set of DPC 2019-2020 events.
You're doing Southeast Asia and China for the major and minor qualifiers, right?
Correct. And we primarily stuck to Southeast Asia because the casting trio that we had was me, Lyrical, and Ninja Boogie.
How is Ninja Boogie, by the way?
I'm scared that he's going to take my job because I had witnessed other pro players step onto the mic from like summits and TIs past, and they can kind of stumble their way through panels aside from like the best of the best, like the PBDs and the no-tails and the Sebs who can do all of it. But for casts, usually things get like a little too hectic, I suppose. Like whenever I ask them a question, then they'll get like super deep in the woods about it. But Ninja Boogie was really good at dumbing it down. And every single time I asked a question, I was like, oh, I don't have to translate anything, because usually that's my responsibility as like the middleman. It's be like, take it from the most nitty gritty and then make it translatable to the layman. And he just did everything for me.
We had this conversation, right? Was this conversation we had at like MDL?
Yeah,
Disneyland,
that's right. That's right.
Where it's like, it's really hard to come into Dota and be a professional analyst right now because there's always that lurking shadow kind of over you constantly that a pro player or multiple pro players is going to come in and just take your job.
But Ninja Boogie didn't even have like a broadcast background. Like he doesn't stream. His most exposure to the Western audience, I suppose, is just doing interviews because his English is excellent. And so whenever his Southeast Asia teams needed a Western representative, he was the face. And then I was like, okay, I can handle that. But he also knows how to cast Dota.
Dude, pro players are so terrifying. Thank God for Valve and like them continually upping TI every year and increasing the amount of money. So these pro players are like, just one more year. Maybe OG. Thank God for OG. They win a TI. Everybody's like, Seb? That guy was garbage. He was a retired player. Maybe I could do that still. And everyone got this fresh round of hope that they would still make it in their pro player careers and have not quit and gone to broadcasting.
At the same time, now that the 2-time seal has been broken, a lot of them are like, oh, well, now I can just like wait until TI, I guess. What do I need to do every single DPC event for?
Yeah, I can just, watch a no-tail and Topson cast, right? Instead of, like, listening to some professional Dota caster. Like, ugh. Just listen to the pro players, right? You don't need job security.
It's a slippery slope because he's also the same age as me. So usually I'm like, oh, well, if you're much younger, then surely you'll find another career paths. But he's in the sun setting just at the same time that I am.
The real scary part is the players who haven't made millions of dollars and could go do whatever they want for the rest of their life. The real scary part is the players who have done pretty well for themselves, but really have not cemented, themselves financially for the rest of their lives, and they actually have to do something for a living for a while. That's Kyle was honestly, that was the perfect storm, like relatively popular and known, but also simultaneously dreadfully unsuccessful. Like that's the perfect storm to make somebody who wants to become a commentator,
I always think about, what are a lot of these players going to be doing when they're not playing Dota anymore? And it seems like the ones who could be commentators or could have a production background or could work behind the scenes at other esports events have something going for them. But it also seems like that's few and far between. Like, there's so many other people who are like, what are they going to do when they're 30? I'm morbidly curious. I want to be able to do like a what's the Where Are They Now? Like an MTV Rock and Roll Where Are They Now?
Right.
But like with Anna in 20 years. Is he just gonna be like? I mean, he's probably a bad example. He'll just have like a mansion in Australia, and he'll be fine.
A better one. IX Mike 88. Where is he now? I think there's a lot of players out there who, like, thank God Dota is big and you can make a lot of money out of it
because they need a day job, or they might eventually need a day job.
Because whether it's like thankfully Dota is a team game, so a lot of these guys like learn the social cues going into it by being a Dota player. But like initially when you meet them when they're first starting their Dota careers, like no real social skills, very likely they dropped out of college to pursue playing professionally, so they don't have any sort of like education that they can go on to do something. So
They don't even have life skills many of the time. They have managers and coaches fulfilling all of their daily needs that they don't need to worry about. Wait, how do I make spaghetti?
my laundry's dirty. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
All those things just get taken care of. For
Food?
you. How do I get from the airport to the hotel? I don't know. I just follow my manager.
At point A, eventually I get to point B.
Yeah.
Managers should have like those, those leashes they put kids on at Disneyland,
Yeah,
just to like strap one on Sumail and be like,
Figuratively
"Come on,
speaking.
come with me."
that always happens.
How would you describe your world social skills, Tsunami?
They're pretty high.
They're pretty high.
Yeah.
So because a lot of these people who are coming into Dota like started there and might have to transition into like other work later, but you're kind of actively doing the exact opposite right now.
Yeah, I'm reversing the process.
So is that you're the example of the opposite? Is that a scary like, oh hey, I have like an established life that is very comfortable, and now let me go do something that I want to do, but may not pan out in 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah, because I'm also worried about how much of my current life I have to unlearn, because I can see why Dota players fall into the trap of just not having to worry. Like I very similarly will start out at point A, end up at point B, because I don't know the languages of many countries that I visit, and people are, trying to figure out where I am, and then I have handlers whenever we get to events being like, hey, show up here and here at this and this time, and then there's like makeup and hair people and producers and stuff like that. And so much of the independence that I thought would be useful in this world is not useful, because I want to do things myself, and people are like, no, don't make decisions. We make the decisions for you.
Yeah, you just listen, you follow.
Yeah, exactly.
Your talent, just like be happy. Just
Right.
just sit there, just get the
We
makeup.
pay you to look pretty, and they're not getting their money's worth with me.
Have you gotten to a point where you appreciate the makeup?
Oh yeah. Whenever I tell
Have you gone home and like bought your own Sephora set now?
Not yet, although he has. Capitalist has.
Oh, I've got my own set because my girlfriend does makeup.
Okay.
And
Whatever.
and I know from her
Excuses.
how bad the makeup artists are at these sort of
Just
things.
be complacent like me.
Very unhygienic. And so I want to be able to do my own stuff.
So you do your own makeup at
I-
events?
Hey, I am going to learn how to do my own makeup for this season. My girlfriend already has like the whole kit she's going to send with me. I'm going to learn how to do my own.
That feels like also a nice relationship bonding experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey honey, let me show you how to do your eyes.
I think it'll probably be nice.
Whenever I tell like my real life friends about what it's like working at events, the thing that always impresses them the most is hair and makeup, because that's the kind of thing that Hollywood that's the biggest I guess overlap between Hollywood and esports, is that people do your hair and makeup. The rest of it, like whatever, showing up on camera, you can do that on local access, but hair and makeup, that's big leagues.
The difference between hair and makeup is huge. Like, look at us now.
Yes. No, actually, at Midas Mode, obviously it was a much smaller scale event, and then that was also the first time that many Western viewers who had seen me at TI saw me in real life, and they were like, "What's wrong with your eyes? Why do you have such big bags under your eyes?" It's like, this is what it's like. This is the esports life.
When you're working like the 13th
Yeah,
hour of
exactly. I was on the
Midas
China
mode.
ship and stuff like that. I'm like, how are you gonna do me like that,
Why do you
man?
look so tired?
And obviously, oh, you are that short.
Hey,
I immediately thought that's where you were going. I didn't realize you were that short.
hey Tsunami, nice to meet you. You look like shit. Also, wow, you should get some platforms.
Can I get an autograph?
I like that. I was watching a lot of your stuff at TI, and I liked that you leaned into the being short thing
You
really
have to.
quickly, because it became very apparent that someone didn't give you an apple box at one point in time, and now you're just a very short human.
Yeah,
they're
they
like,
couldn't-
wow, Shiver's so tall in Tsunami. Whew.
They couldn't really decide what to do with it, because they were like,
Is no one else short?
it's
Do they not know what to do?
me and Fogged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought there were, and Anidroid, formerly. But I remember her,
Yeah.
she had the picture of her, Shiver, Owen, and Slacks, and she was like half their size. But yeah, and then I guess Blitz is like in the middle ground between all the giants and me and Fogged.
Yeah.
But everyone else is just behemoths.
So if you want to cast Dota at all. You should just be
Dude,
like 5'11".
Purge
Is
gave
that,
me like a classic Purge response, and I was just like, man, why everyone's in the scene is so tall? And he was like, yeah, well, taller people are generally more confident, and I think to work in esports, you need to have that kind of confidence. And I was just like, yeah, I guess.
I don't
That
know.
is such a Purge thing to say.
I know, right?
So what does that say? What does that say about you? That
Yeah,
you have, like short
You've
like you're
you've overcome whatever downsides you have genetically speaking, and
typically, we're also more genetically superior. That leads to more success.
I mean,
People like us more.
the
We're
blue
better
eyes
looking,
just
you know.
naturally show up better on camera.
Blonde
This is
hair,
going
blue
to a
eyes.
really weird place. Like, yeah, just be tall, have blonde hair, and blue
Told
eyes,
you,
and just.
we'd pull the race card later on in the show, and here we
didn't
are.
even make-
Now you can make your
That's,
now we
that's,
can.
that's two different race jokes. Okay, let me warm up to it.
Yeah,
So yeah, you went to your first. I mean, you didn't go to your first TI. You worked your
I
first
worked
TI.
my first
And that kind of happened out of the blue.
Yeah,
What were you thinking in like early? When did you actually get the invite?
maybe a month and a half before the event.
So then, what were you thinking 2 months before TI?
I was thinking I had like a 35 to 40% chance of it happening. The circumstances surrounding it would be if Valve would either lean in more on English talent because it's a China TI and appease the Western audience, or they would be like, it's a China TI, China's the main broadcast, we don't need that many English casters. And lucky for me, it went in the favor of more English. There were 31 total talent invites, I believe, which is probably like 5 or 6 more than previous TIs. And I'm one of the 5 or 6 that got in.
Was first of all, what was your first thought when you got the message? Who sent you the message? Was it the email from
Yeah,
PGL?
it was the email from
Okay.
PGL.
What was your thought process once you got the invite?
I immediately prior to it, I had gotten followed on Twitter by the PGL person.
Ah,
And I was
okay,
like,
okay.
well, that's peculiar. And I had actually messaged you, Leafeater.
You're really
at
doxing
the
that we have a
event.
friendship at this point.
Why else would I be here in your home after the qualifiers have ended in a state that I don't live in?
You
Okay.
really wanted to be on the podcast.
Yeah, I
really
mean,
wanted to have the
that's
podcast.
also a good. I'm like, yeah, I just shielded a lot of money. I heard you're a hot commodity. So I got you a manager. I flew you
So
out.
I am getting paid then.
No.
Fuck.
Um,
Yeah, so I had messaged him and I was just like, hey, I just got followed on Twitter. And he was just like, I don't even know what you said.
I can probably pull it up. I think I was very negative about it.
Yeah, you were very negative.
I'm like,
and I was like,
I'm like,
good.
you really
You
should not.
lowered
his
Please, yeah,
expectations
exactly. I
a
was
lot.
like, thank you for grounding me in this entire incredibly tumultuous situation that I'm in. And then like 30 minutes later, I got the email, and I didn't even open it. I just saw the notification on my phone, and I was like, oh my god.
Who did you tell first?
Him, because
Okay.
it was at like it was
3
at
in the
3
morning
in
or
the
some
morning, yeah,
bullshit.
and
Okay,
not
so
very
nobody
yeah,
else
exactly.
was awake, so you
Yeah.
have to go down your top 10 friends list.
Yeah.
and then down to number 14.
And the
Every
people who aren't in the scene, because whenever people are invited to TI, no one else knows who's invited to TI,
Yeah.
which to me seems baffling. That like you don't know who you can talk to about anything because you don't want to be rude and be like, dude, did you make it to TI? And they're like, no, the invites went out.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person to be like, hey, are you invited to the party?
Yeah.
What party?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
And so I needed someone who was at least far removed enough, but still
And
somewhat
available at
acquainted.
3 a.m.
Yeah. And
so
that-
I really
that
just
Venn
I checked
diagram-
very specific boxes to
Man,
get that
we
information.
really like doing that. The LA traffic thing, Dota people are in LA going through traffic. We're just very specific.
Yeah, I'm a very specific need. But yeah, you were at work when you got the
I was
information,
at
right?
work.
So you were like trying to do your day job, and you're like, well, this changes a lot of things.
Yeah, my mind was racing quite a bit because then I also needed to broach the topic of I'm going to not be here at work for a month. How do I do that?
How did you do that?
I don't know, but
'Cause
somehow
you don't remember.
somehow I still have a job.
Are so you're still employed,
I'm still employed.
and they just let you come back? Or do you just come and go as you please now? Like, what
Yeah.
kind of relationship do you have? Do you have like a real human job? Like, you go work normal hours and go make paint?
Well, normal hours is figurative. I work a night shift, so I work from like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. But it is a job. I clock in. I have a lunch. I have a 401k,
Coworkers and-
coworkers. Yes.
That sounds a lot like my experience, because you were doing the night shift. So did you get like the adrenaline of like, holy shit, you know, I'm making it just in the middle of
Oh
your shift,
yeah,
in the middle
yeah,
of the night. Yeah.
I legit went out in the parking lot and ran around in circles for like 5 minutes,
So when
and then I was like, I'm super out of shape. I can't.
your mind's racing, you want to be able to run more, but the body
Yeah,
just can't. When Toby first messaged me on Skype asking me if I wanted to move to Germany and take a job at Join Dota, I was in the middle of loading a ship, which is like anywhere from 12 to 16-hour shift, and it'll go from, so I'll do the 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. shift, and I got it about midnight from Toby,
Oh,
'cause
okay.
he woke up that day and messaged me, and I'm just sitting there in my forklift going, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, can I do this? Can I actually get out of the military? Can I leave my life here and go move to Germany and everything? And it was just like I was pumped up with adrenaline.
Yes.
While
middle of the
still,
night.
yeah, you're loading, you're operating heavy machinery.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we were on break. Actually, I remember we were on break at that point in time, so I was just laying there in my
man.
forklift doing nothing. But
You had to go back to eventually work, and you're like,
Yes. Then I can definitely echo that sentiment.
That's it's so interesting. I feel like I don't hear a lot about what people do before Dota. So just to be like, oh hey, like
Oh,
I
yeah.
drive a forklift, or oh hey, I make paint, or oh hey.
That's true. You're forklift trained then.
I am.
Does that license like last for a long time, or do you have to go
no
re?
clue.
Uh-oh.
Because I have some pallets and I need to go move around. And I was just curious if you could.
I could definitely do that. I don't know if I can do it legally,
Legally.
but I can pull it off. Sure. I've driven so many hours of forklift. I'm an
Wow.
expert on that thing.
Okay.
Expert forklift.
Again, 16-hour shifts. Like you get to a point where you're like really tired and you still manage to pull it off, and you're half sleep that's going on. So.
How many boxes do you move in like a 16-hour shift? Is it just literally nonstop, like just picking up and then moving stuff and then picking up and moving stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. Like a truck drives in, you go and you take it out of these. There's like these rows in a warehouse where a certain product is, and you go to that row, pick up that product, put it on the truck, and then you
Rinse and
wait.
repeat.
You wait a minute, and another truck drives in. You just keep doing that.
And
over and
were they
over
all
again.
at ground level, or you'd have to elevate the forks?
No, you had to elevate the forks pretty
Yeah.
much as high as they could go. And these were
Ooh.
not boxes. They were, it was at an industrial paper factory. So it was these gigantic round paper.
Oh, reams.
Yeah. And they weigh like literally tons. So, and you're using a vacuum truck. So it's just suction cups, basically. So sometimes, the cardboard paper on the top isn't very well fitted or something, or you don't get a perfect seal, and those will drop, and they're dropping like 16 feet. It's like a bomb goes off. It just explodes in front of your truck. It's a super loud noise. It freaks you out for a while. But
No, thank you.
so my question is, Neil, what kind of person do you have to be to have a great degree, to have a very secure job? Obviously, they really like you there because they're keeping you on even after you're leaving for weeks at a
Being a
time.
bad employee.
So you have a stable career, you have a future in that career, everything's going for you, and you're like, screw it. My life's pretty
Esports.
boring. I just want to go into the chaos that is esports and not have any idea what's going to be going on. 5 years down the line, that's a joke. 6 months down the line, you have no idea what's going on. What kind of person do you have to be to say, I'm going to give all that away to go into esports?
Well, that's why I had thought that I was just fetishizing esports for a long time. And that's why I've had 1 foot in and 1 foot out for this long. Because I don't think many other casters maintain their day job this late in their career, I suppose. Or after they had made it to DPC events or TI and stuff like that.
I wonder if that's because a lot of them are not as content as you are too. Like they're looking to get out, whereas you are more content.
Yeah, in a Slack's Outback Steakhouse situation, I would have pieced out ages ago. But I had always enjoyed the creative work as opposed to academic work, and so once I realized that esports is all that it's cracked up to be, and it wasn't just something that I was romanticizing, then the more and more events that I do, the more and more time that I had actually after TI, and I had like a month at home, and then I went to Midas mode. It didn't feel like I was going to meet other coworkers. It finally felt that I was going to hang out with friends at Midas mode, and I didn't have to like put on a face and be like me, because I'm a new person, and you have to interact with me. We're paid to interact with each other. We have to smile with each other, and
that's the way you felt at MDL Disneyland,
Right.
right? It was just like all these people,
Exactly.
I don't really know them. You know, they probably don't really know of me so much, and so I just have to get them to like me in a way,
Right.
because we have to like each other and work on panel together.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a social game. And I mean, you know, if the established people don't like you, they can also tell MDL or Valve or anyone else,
Also
like,
true.
you know, hey, I don't like working with him. And if you get a lot of people who don't want to work with you, then like no one's gonna hire you, right?
Yeah.
So you have to make friends in an environment where it's like, how do I mean, I guess we all have Dota in common. I guess we all are like forced to be together, so that makes it a little bit easier. But you still have to be amicable enough.
Yeah. And so based off of just like career prospects, obviously this is infinitely more sketchy than my current day job. But at the same time, I've exposed myself to enough of it that I'm willing to throw away my old life. And I don't really have any like permanent attachments to my old life. You know, I can make paint in another 20 years down the line, I imagine, but Dota 2, who knows what's going to happen. So if I don't do it now, then it's never going to happen.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that resume or that interview where you're like
What's
trying
this
to go
gap
back
in your
to paint.
employment?
Like, so, sir, why do you have a 10-year gap with nothing in between? Like, I just.
Are you familiar with Twitch.tv?
It's kind of like YouTube, but it's live.
Yes.
Like, we played video games. I talked about them. Like, okay, so you want to make paint again? Like, sure.
Hopefully that is a conversation that never happens.
If it does, I want to
If
be
it
there.
does.
In that world, it's video games are all like virtual reality, and
Yeah,
basically
it's
video
true,
game
actually.
stars are basically athletes because they, you know, are running and
Oh,
jumping around.
I
courses
like
and
this
stuff
future.
Anyway, so
You talked about how you went from TI, you had a little break, and you did Midas mode, and now you did the qualifiers for the next set of major minors.
Correct.
Is it weird that you went from like maybe getting 1 or 2, 3 events a year to like suddenly being booked solid?
Yeah, but I still look at it like every event that I do is the last event that I'll ever do, because I've seen what has happened to other casters who I'm like, wow, this guy's doing great, and they did a great job at TI, and then for various circumstances you just never really see them that frequently. Like last year, Lyrical did not get that many events, and he did a fantastic job at TI, and it's just luck of the draw that either a TO that you had a previous relationship doesn't get any
organizer.
events, correct, doesn't have any DPC events for that year, or maybe their budgets are tighter, or maybe their budgets are more. Maybe Lyrical was a comparatively cheaper caster, and then they had more budgets for higher tier casters. Toby did not do that many events last year either. And so I am thankful for this wave of good fortune that has come really just in 2019, because like 2018, 2017, I don't think I had anything really.
maybe it's lower bracket finals. Maybe it's cursed.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it. LD Mont,
my God.
lower bracket finals. Gabe and Trent, lower bracket finals. After they did that finals, didn't really get events.
Who did it this year?
That was Toby.
Yeah. But I think that's because he's getting grand finals for TI-10, because it's TI-10.
Do people care about that? Like, oh, or is it TIX?
I mean, you riddle me what Casey's doing at Valve now, Tix.
Yeah.
am that's a diversion, but I am very interested.
Ah.
I only have speculation. I have no
Everyone only
real
has
information because Valve historically, we've even talked about this a little bit before, is that they hire like programmers
Yeah.
or
They hire
people
programmers only, pretty much.
or people who are hyper specific in their field and the best at it. So like, there's a reason why they can hire. God, I'm forgetting the music guy's name. Shit, Mark.
The Tim Larkin?
Tim Larkin. There's a reason why they hire Tim Larkin, because he's the best.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they hire the graphics people they do who might not program but like make their show graphics.
Or Jay Pinkerton writers.
Yeah, and now this almost sounds like I'm nagging Kaci to be like, well, what's she the best at? But because Kaci is remarkably good at her job, and I'm sure that she's also a great producer behind the scenes.
But they only produce one show a year.
Exactly. They produce one show a year. What are they gonna? Are they doing a full year build to TI-10?
God, I hope
where
so.
where she works on it all year long? I presume they have the money to do that. She's probably getting a nice salary. There's another Valve employee. I would love for the product if there was just a producer for the product all year long. That seems like a smart thing to do.
It honestly might have been cheaper to hire her for the full year rather than pay her very expensive TV rates. And she also has become a more and more valuable commodity
Well,
every single year. So I'm sure her rates have gone up.
I think the tweet specifically said full time also. So
Yes.
and so like
I pulled.
much unlike a paint job, I don't believe that she can just go back to being a news anchor after the year is up.
Oh, someone will almost certainly hire her to go back on camera, right? Anytime.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
I
But she had like a lot of seniority at her old job also.
she does, and she's also just like locally famous.
Right.
The tweet was, after 7 years of working events for one of my favorite companies, this month I officially joined Valve full time. Maybe that favorite company will work out next time. Just kidding. It's this one.
It's this one.
She needed like a copy editor. Like I don't know what she's meaning by the tweet. Like what? Can you unpack that for me?
Maybe that favorite company will work out next time. Just kidding. It's this one.
She likes Valve.
I think she's just like being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Maybe.
She should throw in a zinger at Valve.
Yeah.
Because that's what Kaci does.
Mhm.
Because Kaci is good enough at her job that she's able to make jokes at very powerful people that the rest of us cannot do.
You sound almost jealous.
Let me just say, I will be not making any jokes about. Well, I can make Gabe Newell jokes.
Can we talk about the geopolitical climate in Southeast Asia right now? No. Okay. I'll move on. Yeah, that's punch up, right? Casey's still punching up, but it's. Yeah. I'm excited for her. I'm happy for her. Looking at the Twitter replies to her comment is like an all-star list of Dota personalities.
I saw a lot of verified check marks in there.
It's crazy to see the responses to that tweet because it's just like everyone is there. But I'm curious. I just want to know what the plan to have her do is. Is it a bunch of TI-10 work? I hope so.
Probably. I think they really want TI-10 to go off very successfully. I think it's something that they have not done a great job of in previous TIs is really laying out the groundwork and planning for it for a long time. I think there are in previous TIs, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of changing ideas that happen. Who's going to be working at on TI changes from year to year, because like that's the way the Valve structure is. You kind of go to whatever projects you want to do. So that's why it seems like if you look at TI and like the format, or not the game format, but like the production stuff, if that format changes and things you don't know why, that's probably why, because the people behind the scenes have changed. So
it'll be interesting. Maybe she'll be in a role that's like overseeing MDL's production, or not MDL, PGL's production for TI. Like maybe she's going to be like that main liaison between the two.
Yeah, I mean they also hired Sarah, I believe, who has been the sort of go-to Valve person. She's the main producer. She's the person that you hear in your ear all the time. I believe they also hired her. So
at the same time, like just recently?
I don't know if it was this year or maybe last year. I can't actually remember. It's
cool to see them get more production people in-house because, like, I used to assume that Valve has infinite money, so the more money that they can spend on talent, or not like, on production talent, people behind the scenes to work on the events and make it bigger, then maybe they can, throw some Counter-Strike events in there too.
I was curious about that. I was wondering if they would ever do a CSGO sort of TI that CSGO scene has always asked for, right? If they would ever do something like that, and that would obviously mean there would be more work for Kaci and other production people that they hire.
Yeah, which would make more sense to just pay for them in the first place if they can go work other events and do CSGO stuff. I know that, I would love that. I'm a big Counter-Strike fan myself, and it feels weird because I do kind of, I'm more into the Dota scene, but I follow the Counter-Strike scene so closely and I care about Counter-Strike so much that it's like I don't feel the same vitriol that they all do against Dota because I also get to reap the benefits of the international. But it would be really cool if they can just spread the wealth a little bit. They deserve something too. And maybe Kaci can help make that happen. I don't know what Valve's plans are. I'm very interested in what Casey's going to do.
This is all speculation.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really knows.
Unprecedented. I think the only other community person that had as much of a presence as Kaci was probably Bruno.
And they eventually hired him. So.
Yeah, but he was a programmer.
Yeah, but Bruno, like, did he work on Dat Dota?
No, he did Dota Academy.
He did Dota Academy. So he can go into Valve with like the production or the programming knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I want to quickly touch on last time we talked about a lot of the player roster, player shuffle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all panned out by the end of episode 3. There were still people figuring out what they were doing. And now 2 weeks later, still not completely panned out. But we do have some more big pieces put together because the qualifiers happened. So people kind of had a deadline of what to do. And I think the biggest news that's been people talking about is that Sumail did indeed make a team with his brother Yuar in CCNC, Quincy Crew. And then they played the qualifier together. They qualified for the minor, not the major. And now he left.
Yep.
That's correct.
It's funny because watching the matchmaking system right now has meant that in NA, it's been a lot of 5 stacking. And oftentimes you just see these teams as a 5 stack playing their pubs. And Quincy Crew owned every single pub that I ever watched of them in it. They just would constantly own their pubs. Then they go to the majors, though, major qualifiers, and they're not one of the 3 slots for North American. We had 3 slots, and Quincy Crew did not get in one of them. And obviously, Sumail is, I think, one of the ultimate competitors in Dota 2, and I don't think he was very happy with the results. Jack even said something, the manager of that team, Quincy Crew, even said something to that regard, and that they could see why Sumail did win a TI, and apparently no bad blood or anything. He might even stand in for them for the minor, I believe.
Yeah, the question, I guess, is it extenuating circumstances that has him leaving, such as contracts and buyouts, or is it legitimately just because I think the Jack's tweet implied like legal issues. I don't know if that was just...
I think I can speak to that. As far as I know, I believe that it literally just wasn't really a good fit.
Okay.
That's like Yuar was forced to go into the off lane. I don't think Sumail was probably happy with their results and stuff. And, like Sumail is somebody who could be on almost any tier 1 team. So, he's probably just looking for something a little bit better, something that he feels a little bit more comfortable with. The legal and buyout troubles, I don't think really impacted where that team was going to go. I think there was solutions in place that if this team wanted to stay together, they would have.
Yeah, money solves those problems, right?
Yeah.
Sumail might have enough of that to really fix those problems if they arise. It's interesting to see it happen so quickly, though, because I think traditionally we see a lot of teams that while they might not feel they're perfect, try and stick it out a little bit longer, or like maybe the next event will be better.
Yeah, I mean,
but
because
they
still made it to a minor also.
Yeah, they didn't get knocked
They
out.
could theoretically make it to the major.
Yes.
But even after qualifying, after doing the hard work, I suppose, they were just like, eh.
It's also probably, think about the position Sumail has been in his entire pro playing career. He joined EG, and this is the first time that he's ever been outside of that team, right? Like, he has had kind of a core group that he's worked with the entire time. He won a TI with them. I would guess he's probably not used to...
not having Phil around?
Yeah. He's probably not used to failing so much. He's probably not used to being in this chaotic environment of the team rosters. He probably maybe hasn't learned the same lessons that other teams had about staying together. Or maybe he's also just in a position where he doesn't need to be a player, right? Like, he doesn't need to be one of those guys like, I have to make this minor. I want to be able to go to the major because if I make top 3, I go to TI. Like, Sumail's probably going to TI anyway, much like Anna. Right?
Yeah.
He's one of those players that is so singularly skillful that you can take a break or whatever. You don't have to stick with a team in order to try and make it a TI, because at the end of the year, you're probably on a roster that's going there. So,
Yeah, he's in a very privileged position, so he can kind of do whatever he wants. But now the rest of that team is just like, we need an offlaner, I guess. How do we find one? Do you just like put a post up on Craigslist and you're like looking for offlaner? Do you just like make a Reddit thread? You're like, hey guys, does anyone want to apply? Like, what do they do?
North American or better offer, please.
that
No low
is-
balls.
I mean, honestly, that's pretty much what they're stooping to at this point, is tweeting out that they need an offlaner and they're taking applications. That is almost to the point that they've gotten to, because they are really struggling finding somebody, because North America does not have a wealth of offlaners.
Is that because the offlaning position is typically the one that has the least pool, the smallest pool of people to begin with, or North America is particularly bad for offlaners, or what puts them in that predicament?
Well, I can go into the psychology of it a little bit. But let's be
As a
honest,
North
like,
American offlane player,
North American players really like to be the guy. They like to be the hero, the guy who hits the creeps and wins the game at the end of the day. And offlane has typically not been that. So there's a little bit of reason for that regard. I think offlaners is like the transition from 1 to 2 is like relatively fluid. The transition from 4 to 5 is relatively fluid. Where you go from a core into an offlane, there's always a bumpy road. And we're seeing a lot of people trying that this season. Resolution, Ramses, and Yawar was doing it.
not
In
anymore.
the past, all of them have had some really rough times when trying to make that transition. So I think it's just a role that North America has a small player pool, and therefore the one role that is probably the most specific and least picked is obviously going to be a bit lacking.
It's fair. You talked about Resolution. I don't think we knew this last time, but he joined VP.
Not even JStorm knew it last time.
How did that break down? Why was that a surprise for everyone?
I'm pretty sure. As far as I know, it was like they had already put out an announcement being like, Rezo's on JStorm, everybody. And then like 3 days later, VP was like, Rezo's on VP, everybody.
I should have claimed him. Just be like, hey guys,
Shut up.
Rezo's, I'm making a team. Everyone should just do it, right? Just if that's how it works. Just be like, hey, Resolution's on my team. He played offlane. The VP didn't qualify for the major. They qualified for the minor.
Correct.
Is that disappointing?
I would imagine so. But at the same time, who really knows how much Solo and no one were planning on playing this first event? Because the roster, aside from Rezo, which as last minute as the shuffle was, it kind of implies that they were like, we'll take off the first event like everyone else. And then something happened. And then they were like, okay, let's just get whoever's around, which saved.
Hey guys, you want to play a qualifier?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
And Rezo and no one and Solo have enough clout that you can just be like, do you know who we are? You want to play with us? Okay.
I do kind of want to talk about the JStorm to VP thing, just because, like, if you know Rezo and you know his history, like, this is a guy who's really good at being the guy to hit creeps and win the game. And he's had that kind of attitude. He likes to be that person. I'm not saying you can't change over time. I know Rezo has grown and learned. I've talked to him about it a little bit, and he said he's learned a lot of lessons from previous years. But him moving to 3 position and that whole JStorm into VP thing definitely makes me think that he was not happy being on that team, and there was something that was not going right there, and he was willing to take any ticket to get out of that team into somewhere else. I mean, being on VP organization is also just that's a dream for a lot of players, I think.
Especially people, he's Ukrainian, I believe. So
Yeah.
people from that region, like VP is just, VP and Navi, I guess, are the gold standard across all esports for being over there.
And also, just one more thing. He left CIS because he thought it was a toxic region. I believe he said that he would never go back.
Oh, no.
But he went to North America and he learned something about toxicity. Let me tell you.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
He learned what a real toxic region is like, what a real bad region is like, and he decided to go back.
Where do you go to if you don't want to be in a toxic region then?
You go to Europe or
Yeah, Europe.
Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Even Southeast Asia. I don't
People
know.
always say like, oh, Southeast Asia, like they always talk about, the pubs being really bad. But at the high level, pubs are actually really good in Southeast Asia because all those players are treating it like pretty seriously. Even if they are young, and that's where the toxicity comes from in the lower levels. The highest level, they're treating it pretty seriously. And Southeast Asia players also don't really throw. They'll be toxic in chat and stuff, but they don't feed down mid. They'll still try.
Yeah, if you mute everyone, you would never know how toxic a Southeast Asia game could theoretically be.
Yeah.
But nothing can save you from North America. No matter how high your APM is, your courier is going to go down mid at some point.
Yeah.
I guess I'm happy that I'm not at those level games.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword to be that good.
Oh, that's calm down.
What can I say?
Hold on a second. Oof. Other things that finally came out of the shuffle were that we still don't have a home for Karaoke, but we do have a home for what was the old Team Liquid, what was the old Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
They are officially the new Team Liquid team.
Which was immensely confusing as a caster because
Because Alliance was still playing,
Yeah.
and Team Liquid was playing, and they swapped.
Exactly. The finals for the first slot for the major was Liquid versus Alliance. And I just had to and at one point the overlays on the draft were reversed, which just compounded the issue even more. And so I was like, oh, well, there goes Insania. I guess Alliance is doing. Nope, wait, no. I guess Liquid is winning this fight. So yeah, and then the new Alliance beat the old Alliance for the first slot. So that was an amusing turn of events. But
oh yeah, and Reddit lapped that one up
for sure.
The amount of comments that's what you get for leaving Alliance. That's what Kelly and Loda send their regards and stuff like.
I ended the cast being like, Liquid left Alliance for this.
I
Liquid is left, Alliance is right.
You're really stoking the flames of that.
I
Mickey
mean,
is
you're
counting
remember-
his cash.
I got on my soapbox for last episode. I won't get back up on that again. But let me just say, I fucking hate Alliance. fuck Alliance fans right now. Honestly, like again, you have no idea any inside information about anything that went on, and everyone's just gonna be the most dogmatic approach possible, and beating their chest. Me team, me Alliance.
I think
Come on.
I think back in the day, a lot of TOs used to be like, man, Bulldog's taking all of our Alliance viewers, and now it's like a containment zone.
Yeah,
all the diehards are in the Bulldog chat, and all the people actually watching the game are in the actual tournament chat. And they're
Dude,
just
it reminds me when Navi first actually
Oh,
became
God,
good
yeah.
again. The Navi fans were out in force. Now
They came
it's
back like
Alliance fans
cicadas.
are
They're
really out in
Yeah.
force.
Alliance, who won the European qualifiers, they weren't really a pre-existing team. They're kind of like a new hodgepodge of people. I think we have Limp and Hanskin back on that team who have been in and out at least 6 or 7 times at this point. I think that might be accurate. But Nico Baby is the people who a lot of people are talking about who joined Alliance for this new iteration.
yeah, and casting with Ninja Boogie.
Who played with Nico?
Correct. And on Mineski during TI, he was thoroughly impressed. I had asked him one question that was who do you think you had the most compatibility with in lane? That out of all your pro playing career, and I think he said Cuckoo and Nico Baby. Or it may have, I don't remember if it was Cuckoo, but it was some Southeast Asian player and Nico Baby. And he did not have that much exposure to Nico Baby. And he was immensely fond of him, thoroughly impressed with his carry capabilities. And despite being Prison Artur, or however you want to dub him, as looking kind of like
I wasn't going to go there. I was thinking about something to say, but then I'm like, I'll just leave it on the table.
Based off of the appearance, you'd think he would be the quintessential toxic CIS player. But he was apparently very friendly and very compatible with the Mineski team, despite being, I guess, an import. He had spent time on Clutch Gamers, which is also a Southeast Asian team, but at the same time, it's still a CIS player.
I think you got to stop judging people with neck tattoos, Neil.
Listen, no.
Okay, that's a strong. I gave you an out. That's a strong stance to take. Whatever.
Let me just say, I cut a player from my fantasy football team because he had a neck tattoo.
Oh, that's true. We actually discussed this. And then I was like, would you not play Nico Baby on your fantasy in the TI? And he was like, no, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Do you not listen to Post Malone?
I listen to some post, but I don't watch his music videos out of principle. God damn it!
Maybe we can reel this back and go somewhere that might be less potentially cancel culture.
He is a player that you build a roster around. Let me just say, I think
he was one of the hottest selections, I think, after TI for carries.
His stock went way up on TI.
yeah.
Even as someone who was just watching TI as a viewer who doesn't know all behind the scenes stuff, even the talk that the casters in the panel were doing about him, they're like, this guy is getting a big boost.
I'd say it was probably equivalent to Rezo Empire stand-in levels of stock raising.
Yeah, so I mean, super happy for him. Alliance again, they won the qualifiers for Europe. They're going to the China major.
Chengdu.
Thank you. Were there any teams? How did you like the way that we did the qualifiers now that they're over? Was it
merging the major and minor?
Because last year we had 2 different qualifiers, one for each major, one for each minor, but now it's just one big lump sum. And while the actual organization of the tournament may be confusing, are you thinking that Valve went down the right path with this choice?
Yes.
I think it's a little hard to tell with this first round of qualifiers because the major and minor, it was the same people running the qualifiers, right? MDL basically just gave it to BTS and said, hey, cover the qualifier.
Your headache.
You're doing the minor anyway, so we'll just hire you to do it. And that's what MDL usually does, right? I think it'll be more interesting to tell when 2 tournament organizers are covering it and they don't collaborate in that regard. I hope every tournament organizer honestly just hires BTS. I think a hub is nice. I think it creates a bit of continuity. It allows us to be able to explore a storyline all the way through, all those sort of things. But I also hate having a best of 5 for the minor team.
That was peculiar.
That was the dumbest thing.
The grand finals for the minor qualifier was a best of 5, and literally every other match in the qualifier was a best of 3, including the major grand finals.
So in North America, right, you would have 3 best of 3s that each one determining one of the slots to go to the major, which is the bigger tournament. These are better teams. And then you go to the minor qualifier, and you have the 4th and 5th best team play a best of 5. I know you want to end the tournament on a big flourish, the qualifier on a big flourish, but that is not the way to do it.
Yeah, I wonder if could they even change that at that point, or are these locked and set in stone rules?
I thought part of it was that it was throwing the minor a bone that they get more airtime. Because technically the major is 4 days qualifiers, the minor is 2 days qualifiers. And I guess if you do a best of 5, you kind of squeeze out a little bit more broadcast.
If I was thinking about where to put that best of 5, I'd probably put it on the bubble between who gets the major and the minor, like the last team for the major.
Yeah.
Instead of the last team for the minor. Because I feel like we already know who the best teams are. Whatever. We already know who's going to kind of go to the minor, maybe not go. But the most exciting game to me is the team that might go to the major.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm not producing these events. It's I watched a little bit of the qualifiers and I liked that it was a hub setup.
Right.
It does make it feel more homely.
And the broadcast logistics, I can agree, may get a little bit hairy because I imagine that ESL will not hire BTS. They do everything internally for the most part.
Yeah, they won't.
So that could get a little bit confusing. But in terms of just not having it would have been 4 sets of open qualifiers last year, right? Because it was Qual 1, Open Qual 1, Open Qual 2 for the major.
Yeah.
And then there was Open Qual 1, Open Qual 2 for the minor.
Yeah.
So I think compressing all that into a unified event was a good idea. And again, the BO5 thing, the scheduling, all that stuff can be ironed out, but unifying the 2 quals, I think, was definitely a step in the right direction.
Like most Valve things, they do some big new thing. A lot of it is not super well thought out, and then the next year they fix it to be a little bit better, and so on and so forth. And that's
Woo,
just
iteration.
So it's improving every year, I think.
Were there teams that you were surprised didn't make the major or the minor? Like any teams that you were surprised that did really well, or did anything come out of the qualifiers that were just generally unexpected for you?
NA Quincy Crew not making it to the major was definitely a surprise.
Because
CIS.
Sumail is just that highly
Yeah,
regarded.
and I didn't have too much faith in fighting pandas, I believe is now what they're called, the EE.
They don't want to co-opt whatever maybe racist thing they were doing.
Yeah, probably not.
They should ask the cost about that.
At the same time, Envy is trying to get free logos for his team instead of commissioning artists. So
Dude,
oh,
there's no
that
way
really
that
bothers
Jackie
me.
Mao has not made enough money
Right.
that he can pay someone.
I know.
You can get a good artist for a day rate and not even spend that much money. Like, give someone $300, dude.
Yeah.
You can afford $300. You probably made $300 in stream donations in the time it took us to record this. Like,
Yeah. So
or like spread it out. You have 5 players in your team. Hey, everybody, I need you to Venmo me $60 so we can have a team logo.
I don't know if I can swing that.
He's got to use that money to buy a new account anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah, so them for NA, I would say Na'Vi not making it to anything in CIS was a surprise, and VP only making it to the minor was also a surprise. I think China played out the way I was expecting. Southeast Asia did. All the other regions did pretty much.
Yeah, I like seeing Ad Finum back in the minor system
yeah.
under their original banner.
I can tell you Dakota was thrilled about that because the Greeks were amazing at the last summit that they were at.
Yeah, and anyone who has a personality. I feel like when I look at the major page now after the qualifiers, or whatever, there's a lot of logos that I'm not used to seeing. And I think that might be a result of like, the top 3 or 4 teams just not playing
True.
in the qualifiers at all. So, like for China, we have Acer, which is
Aster.
with Aster,
Yeah.
Ooster,
But
Aster, which is the new SCCC team.
Exactly. So SCCC is back on land. So
You're like, oh, he homes a team again, I guess, or like, who are positive guys, or why are there multiple teams in the qualifiers who don't have a logo right now in Liquidpedia? And Beast Coast is like, are they a real organization? Question mark. Like,
man.
there's a lot of
Beast Coast made out like a bandit. I'm super happy for Beast Coast because they were picking up the most hated rosters. It was first an EE stack, then it was an IX Mike stack, and everyone was like, man, fuck Beast Coast. And now they've got possibly the most beloved roster in Dota 2 right now with the Anvorgesa South American Path to Glory.
Yeah, I'm so interested in Beast Coast just as like an organization because it seems like the longer we go on, either teams are the teams that we know that are established, the cornerstones, the EGs or the TLs or the Alliance, or these stacks that identify as Quincy Crew or Flying Pandas, or like these people who are just on their own and then maybe they'll get picked up by a big organization, something shifts. But Beast Coast feels like one of the first people in a while that are trying to just start a legitimate organization.
Yeah,
And they're actually multi-game, not just Dota, right?
Because they do fighting games, I believe.
Yeah.
correct.
So I'm happy for them. I hope that they have a business plan that like can last a little bit longer because just trying to kick off an esports team is no easy process. That's a lot of money. So hopefully
I'm also happy for Beast Coast and Crest. Their
Crest.
mascot.
Crest Burger. You're gonna get a Crest Burger shirt?
No.
Tell me you're not gonna rock that crop top?
Let me just say, their mascot looks. It gives me real big furry vibes, man. It gives me real big furry vibes. That's all I want to say.
I don't know how I made it 2 furry references now in one short span, but maybe that is a community they're waiting for a team to champion.
We need our first Sonic Fox in Dota 2.
Yeah.
I'd be into it.
Yeah.
I'd be into anyone who even has half the personality that Sonic Fox
Yes.
does, for better or for worse.
Agreed.
So that's like, something to help out with. Last point on the qualifier system in general. Is there a reason to be worried for the teams who decided to not participate? Or are they just going to like automatically get invited to play in the next set of qualifiers because of who they are, and then they'll just qualify and it'll be like nothing happened?
Yeah, that's a good question, especially regarding the slot allocations, because Valve specifically confiscated a slot from Europe because despite Europe doing amazing in top 8 TI, all the amazing teams are not participating. And so depending on when and where, like a Kuro stack will return, like will they still be a European team? Who knows? Maybe. But I don't know if they will have that kind of free pass to be like, oh yeah, it's Kuro.
I don't think there's a whole lot they have to worry about, honestly, because I think Valve has always been this kind of way where they keep their finger on the pulse, right? And just think about before when they did the invites for TI. They literally just invited people. No one had any criteria. Right? That was always Valve saying like, hey, we do pay attention to the esports scene. We know. And there was like information behind the scenes, like from teams. They knew if they would usually, they usually knew if they were getting invited. They usually had an idea that like, hey, this final tournament, if you place really well, like you might be getting invited sort of deal. But it was always like sort of backdoor. And so Valve likes to be able to show that like, hey, we keep up with this sort of things. I think the Europe slot is a perfect example of that. And I think with these teams come back, they'll probably be, Valve will shift things around for them just like they've always kind of done.
Yeah. Also, I mean, you want your biggest, most popular teams to be playing your game too. So Valve does have a vested interest, for better or for worse, of making sure that OG plays in a tournament or making sure that Karaoke plays in a tournament, because it's just going to get more eyeballs on the game, and then it's all about money and capitalism. But that is also kind of the reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have much. I think that we did most of it.
Already?
What do you want? I mean, I can. So tell me about your beard routine.
I've already had that interview question like 10 different times at this point.
Let me look up. I can look up your Liquidpedia page and be like, "What questions can I ask you if I know nothing about you?" Be like, "Hey, so you make paint? I guess. Cool. You have a beard with the. I want to edit your Wikipedia, your
Again.
Liquidpedia to put a.
Again, you man.
Don't.
After vandalizing it one time.
You only noticed that because I told you.
No
one else-
Because you shoved me into one of your ARGs, and then I got a bunch of angry Discord messages about like
I actively try to not think about.
who was the artist?
I'm sorry, I'm losing this conversation. What did you do to his Wikipedia page?
He vandalized it.
What did you-
shamelessly?
I've added fun facts to multiple people's Wikipedia pages.
Have you touched mine?
I've
I
not
didn't look at
touched
mine,
yours.
to be honest.
I haven't touched yours.
Okay.
Maybe I have an idea.
Okay, give me some ideas. You don't necessarily have to name names, but like, what are some things you put into people's Wikipedia pages?
One time I wrote a long list for Blitz's Wikipedia page about his favorite fast food.
Based off
That
of
is so on brand for him.
was it accurate, or was it just you just
It
winged
was semi-accurate. There was actually a long paragraph about how he likes the wings at BJ's.
Okay.
Is that true?
I have no idea.
What?
I don't know what.
How would he know that
I
and
don't really
you
know
not
BJ's.
know that?
If you had said Wingstop, then 100% that's his favorite fast food.
Yeah, I know that he likes wings. I know that he just likes wings in general.
Yeah.
We had a long conversation once about how Blitz didn't want to take donations, but he did want to take like food gift cards from his stream. So like there was a period
Doctors
of time,
Without Borders, Wingstop.
there was a period of time where he was getting paid in BJ's gift cards
Nice.
from people on stream. So he just went to BJ's a lot, and that inspired me to just go to Liquidpedia and be like, no one reads this, right? I'll just write some fun stuff.
What's another one you've done?
I've vandalized Neil's Liquidpedia
Okay.
in ways that I don't. They're like still actively there, and people
Yes.
believe a lot of it.
Yes.
So I don't want to. I don't want to reveal what they all are.
Neil, what did he put in there that's not real?
He says that in my paint job, I make Dota references when naming the paints. Like, if it was a purple paint, I would name it Wex Purple, or if there was a red, I would name it Silencer Red.
Do you get the name of the paints?
No. Well, it sounds
you
more.
could.
I know, yeah. Well, it does sound very glimmer. And I actually told him that I was like, if and when I do leave my paint job, I will make a label that says Wex Purple because I have access to the label maker. And so, just as a commemorative going away gift to myself.
Nice.
And then more people will believe it in interviews.
Yeah.
I just want to create a bunch of false information and chaos for everyone, so that everyone who's doing an interview for Join Dota or whatever outlet is just like, hey, so I heard that you really like Wingstop.
Yeah, there's going to be a Nardwar, an esports Nardwar at some point who does this deep level research. And the guy's going to be like, what? No, that's not true at all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I also don't condone vandalizing Wikipedia, but it can be remarkably fun sometimes. So.
Speaking of Blitz, I did want to just talk about this real quick. Which was that I will Blitz is going to be coaching Liquid.
Is
this
that?
year.
I didn't know about. Is that like news?
It got leaked somewhere, but
Do I have
don't
to?
think it's
Do I have to wait to?
he hasn't
release it
actually
till someone
said
else?
anything yet,
Oh.
but I think he's going to say something like presumably by the time this is out.
It's supposed to
So-
go up like tomorrow.
Hit upload.
That's
right
that's,
now.
That's fine. So he's going to be coaching Liquid, and as a result, he is still contracted to some events, but Blitz and I will not be casting for the majority of the season this year. And as a result, I'm going to be making a duo with Trent, which I'm pretty excited about. I've always really liked casting with Trent when I've gotten the opportunity to do so, and I think it'll be a fun duo. So
Trent is someone who I've never met, but I've just always assumed is cool.
yeah,
Good assumption.
So
he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
So then it is a extended long-term plan for Blitz to coach for the 2019-2020 DPC season.
Yeah, I assume so. I think that he is committed to casting to Liquid more so than
Coaching for Liquid.
Coaching for Liquid. Sorry. When the TI6 era happened, where he was coaching Liquid and also casting with me, one of his biggest regrets was not being there for Liquid at TI. So I don't think he wants to make that same mistake again. Whether or not they make it to TI, we'll see. But I think he's in it for the long haul, and that's part of the reason that that we're not going to be casting together for this season. It's like hard, right, for TI when it comes to invites. You want to have an established pairing, and so you want to be able to have a consistent product to show Valve before that.
yeah,
And
this is going to be good.
yeah, exactly. So if it's like Blitz is committed to coaching to Liquid and he's there at TI, can't cast with me, then Valve doesn't really know. I can literally cast with anybody. I don't think I really have a pair that won't work, but it's better to show that you have that product in the first place and to work on it.
So will you just will you go do casual pub casting with Trent? Will you go have phone conversations? What's the
Dude,
process of
Trent's a
working your
grinder.
way up to
That dude watches replays
Yeah.
and live streams of high-level pubs.
Yeah.
You can keep up with that? Because Blitz is not that much of a workaholic.
No, but Blitz is really good at Dota, has a long history of playing and analyzing Dota, has a lot of pro player connections. So for me, I always felt like I wanted in a duo somebody that I respected their opinion about Dota, right?
Mhm.
I didn't want to feel like the play-by-play caster who knew more than his analyst. Trent obviously doesn't play high-level Dota. I still really respect his opinion because of how much he grinds, right? So, even though he's probably dog shit at Dota, but
We're already building a fun dynamic.
but he watches so much. I knew in the first year of Trent kind of being a person, my first interactions with him, I knew right away. I was like, this guy really follows the scene and really pays attention and is always up to date. So
To date, if you check Dota caster stats, Trent is the English caster with the most ticketed games to his name.
yeah. So hopefully we'll probably cast some qualifiers. We'll probably do some online stuff together as a result of that, just to kind of get in the flow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be nice to going back to grinding a little bit.
You can maybe reignite a little bit of passion, be like, I gotta really work hard at it again. You can't just rest on any laurels. You're like, I gotta prove again that I can do this with someone else who people don't expect me with.
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing for Dota player and Dota talent once you sort of make it up to the top to maintain that motivation to continue to work to be the best.
Yeah. It's probably the same as any field too. If you want to extrapolate that beyond Dota, once you start to get to that apex, it's just hard to be well, now what, I can kind of coast. But that's also toxic too, because you want to, the best people still work to get better.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to see you two do some stuff together. I'm excited to see Blitz coach Team Liquid. I'm literally wearing a Team Liquid hat right now. So it's a thing that I'm excited for. I'm excited for that team. I'm excited to see Blitz on it. It's been a long time since he coached Team Liquid. Has he done any coaching since then?
No, he coached Team Liquid and then he coached Digital Chaos that turned into
That's
right.
Yes, that's right.
Planet Odd,
team that
right.
did not make it to TI. So hopefully his success rate is a little. Also, that TI was the Liquid TI, the one they won.
Oh, yeah.
So he left Liquid to coach Planet Odd, and obviously would have gone out like a bandit if he had just kept coaching Liquid. But but yeah, hopefully it goes better. I'll be honest. This is the 1 year. I'm gonna be really honest with this in every broadcast. I am backing Liquid this year. I how
Biased
can I not?
caster?
Right? Like all the bias casting stuff, it's such an old trope and stuff. But this is the 1 year that I feel like I'm fully embracing this. I don't care about most of these guys, but those guys I care about mostly because I feel like they haven't made it yet, they didn't really make the money at TI, you know?
We're on the cusp.
They walked away with the 50K, not the 500K.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's an underdog team. I want them to do well. Let's is coaching them. It's like, I can't.
You have
I
too
can't
many
not
friends
cause
now
for that.
to
Yeah.
not. I'm just gonna clip out the point of you saying that you don't care about most of them and then use that to promote the show. Like, Capitalist cares about no DOTA people. News at 7.
Also, fuck Alliance.
There's your Reddit headline.
Oh shit! Thanks for coming here. Thanks for doing this, Neil. Tsunami.
Of course.
I appreciate that. I should use your not human name. That
You
most
You want to
people
move to LA? We can make this a regular thing.
I've been casually trying to get.
Actually is a very light way of putting it.
I've been casually trying to
Passionately.
get Tsunami to move to LA for 3 years.
3 years.
It's
about
been a
3
while.
years. About 3 years, yeah.
Literally every single
Wait,
time.
how long do you guys know each other?
24, 15?
Something like
I gave
that.
you the tweet. What
Yeah.
date was the tweet?
I don't remember. We argue about
we
this
met via a
sometimes.
tweet.
So you were, but way before you were Dota personality, basically.
No,
you were
it was
kind of
it
in
was
the same
it was after I released Be the Better Carry.
right.
So it was like basically I had done the writing and then I did the YouTube, and having such a prominent Reddit presence, he obviously had to take note of me. And then
I just recognize.
since.
I just think I have a good eye for talent.
he likes having a stable of people that he can farm out work to.
That's
And so why we're all here right now.
it's a really weird way to put it. I'm trying to get you jobs,
Yeah. But I'm not getting paid for this.
but not this. But think of everything else that I've.
Exposure for the
never-
next job. The
Right.
tournament organizer's going to come up to you. Hey, I saw you on Side Pull Podcast. You're pretty good, kid. You know, and then you get hired.
really think
Fingers
God.
Then you
crossed.
can come back to Leafeater and say, thank
true.
you. It's all because of you.
I will.
One day he will. It'll be fine. I just want to be the kingmaker. I'll be like, I did that.
It's a good place to be.
I did that. But do you have anything you want to plug? That's things people do at the end of the shows. This is also immediately when people skip to the next episode on their podcast player. So
Instagram.com/tsunami643. I'm trying to get on the gram more.
what's your TikTok strategy?
Well, I'm actually super pissed that Vine died because I was on the ground floor of Vine. I was making Dota Vines, and then Vine imploded somehow. And now, out of respect for Vine, I will not have a TikTok.
That's a very old man perspective.
It is.
You should be on the ground floor of Dota.
You're
TikTok.
right. You're right. I'm just being belligerent about it.
Do follow Tsunami. What's your Twitter?
It's all the same. Tsunami643.
What's the numbers from?
There's literally no significance. I
Okay.
made a AOL Instant Messenger account. I thought I could get Tsunami, and then it was like, you can't have Tsunami, but you can have Tsunami643. And I was like, I guess I have no choice in the matter.
I respect that. In my pub games, sometimes I go as 989. No significance
Nice.
whatsoever. Just
Okay.
Random numbers, basically. But do follow Tsunami on Twitter,
You're too
on Instagram. Do you have any other platforms?
YouTube, Twitch.
Okay,
it's all the
follow
same.
all of those. And it's important because the more followers you have on social media
Ooh,
you're not in a relationship, right?
I'm not.
As a single man,
Oh, I like where this is
the
going.
better it is, the ease at which you are able to slide into DM.
This is true.
It's important, guys.
That's
Verified.
just good. That's just good life advice.
Next step is verified on Twitter. Then I'm golden.
Everyone just
Then they get the message pop up.
Yeah.
Tsunami sent you a message.
Then it's
This
me,
guy.
Ariana Grande, riding to the top.
Oh man, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me again, Cap. Coming to my home now. I promise we're gonna get back to the studio. It's gonna look good. I think we're gonna get Jesus Christ. I'm gonna have to cut that too. Why am I having a long pause? I think we're gonna get Charlie to come. We'll be back
Yeah.
in the studio.
Ooh.
We'll hang out. It'll look a little bit nicer. Not like there's a bunch of bricks of controllers.
Ask
behind
him
us.
why Mike tagged up as him during the calls.
Mm.
I'm curious to find that story out. Unless if you already have the answer. for me.
Charlie can.
Okay.
Charlie can
Okay.
answer it.
Oh,
You will not want to miss that
a
episode.
cliffhanger.
Not for that part, but for the fact that I know Charlie is ready to drop some fire. I think he's in a better position now that he doesn't have to worry as much about his connections
Whoa.
That's nice. I always like someone who can be a loose cannon.
to talk a little more freely about stuff.
I'm the slightest bit nervous about that episode because I've had a single interaction with him and it was very poor. I think I was super awkward.
Ooh. Tell me.
Charlie
I need to know
inherently.
this
Charlie's
before
just like carries that aura of cool that you're just.
I
gotta.
don't know if
trust
he
this guy.
carries an aura of cool. I think he carries the aura of dad.
But like a cool dad though.
Like maybe like a cool dad, like someone who's like you know can be very stern and wag a, like you don't want them to wag a finger at you.
So what'd you do wrong?
I don't think I think I just introduced myself in like a non-funny manner,
Okay.
and I'm like, that joke didn't land. I'm sorry. Nice to meet you.
And Charlie just did one of those like, okay.
Yeah,
That's sort of like the slightly flippant, slightly letting you know,
Like-
I don't really care.
yeah, like slightly dismissive, and I'm like, well, that doesn't feel good. Okay.
Charlie's real good at that, but he's a great guy once you get to know him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So we'll do that. We'll do that soon. You can follow the rest of this. You can watch the podcast in video form on the YouTubes. You can
Better
listen.
lighting than last time.
That's because the lights turned on. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, you can watch the podcast on YouTube. You can listen to it on all the places you listen to it: the Spotify's, the Apples, the Stitchers, the what have you. Put it on in the car. You can
Subscribe to us on Spotify. That's a big one, right? It just goes right into your Spotify. You're listening to music. You see a new podcast. Easy.
I listen to all my podcasts on Spotify now.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. So I like Spotify. But if you leave us a review on iTunes, I said this at the top, I'll mail you something. I'm gonna make something and I'll send it directly to you.
Best Dota podcast. Where have you been all my life? From Dookie Anime 5 stars. That's
Funny, you don't have to spend
bar.
any money on shipping because it just goes right back here.
That's
doesn't
not
it?
true.
Doesn't it?
I'm not making fake reviews.
I'm gonna send you something.
Word
I
go-
don't even know what it is.
I'm gonna have to prove this to the world. Please leave us a review. I will literally mail you something. I'll pick something and mail you something. It'll be a thing, I promise. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. I got bye. Do you say bye?
Bye bye.